Hey guys, it's Light Architect 12 here, and welcome back to another build challenge. Last build challenge, we made this beautiful fantasy-esque build, and I revealed that it is probably my favorite one yet. I mean, compare this to this, like, where's the comparison here? Like, obviously this one's better. But I'm going to try and do something new. You see, I don't use the fantasy kind of style very much, and I didn't really use it much here now that I take an honest look at this. But I'm gonna try something completely different because I actually have not done this yet. So this is going to be interesting. I want to build. Also, speaking of something interesting, I'm actually going to reveal what I'm gonna build first because after all, it is in the title. What's the point? I'm going to try and build a desert oasis. And the reason I want to do that is because right now it's, you know, come on, Alexi, you're supposed to tell, July 6th, that is the date, is like the middle of summer. And I wanted to capture some of that summer vibe, kind of like bring in some of those hot elements, and what better place than a desert? Amazing. But I wanted to do an oasis, just to kind of put some life elements here, work with some contrast, and, cool stuff like that. And we'll be experimenting with that in the time lapse. But yeah, I'm gonna give myself another 4 chunks to do it. And let's see how this turns out. Before we start, though, I want to mention something, and that is, I'm going to talk through the time lapse. I probably won't do this every single time, but the reason I'm going to talk through it is so I can actually give you like an in-depth walkthrough of my thought process here, instead of doing that terrible little like outro thing where I'm like, I wanted to include some water in this build. I thought that would be pretty cool. Like, I just thought that would be a little more meaningful. So, that's the plan. With all that said, let's get started. Alright, so, a desert oasis. That is the plan for this time lapse, and can I just say before we start, I was a little hesitant to do a project like this. And looking back, it was pretty stupid, but so sand in this game obeys physics, and because of that, you have to have like a block underneath it, which is, it's a little tedious when you're building something on a larger scale such as this. Looking back, it didn't really matter that much. It only took like 10 extra minutes, but still, we were able to get through that, and this was one fun build to do, so let's get it started. Right now I'm just working on like the general terraforming and stuff. I kind of want to, I could have gone for a more flat build, but that's just boring. So I opted to have that like little extra slope there, just add a little more depth. There's not really much to talk about here. It's exactly what it looks like. Yeah. So yeah, as you can see right now, I'm placing in that extra layer of blocks, and I spotted a pig here. Now this game, you see, it put a pig, and I really can't have it there. And yeah, as you can see there, I'm like, sorry dude, but I had to. And then I got rid of the pork immediately. I didn't want any blood on my hands there, so. And then they did it again. At that point I got a little mad, but I did pay my respect. So yeah. Yeah, but a desert oasis. So my main goal for this build was to like put emphasis on like a hot cold kind of theme, and contrast as well as nature. I have to credit Chucky Conroy for making me realize this, but he mentioned that a lot of people don't really see like beauty in a desert kind of theme, but it is there, so I wanted to, put some emphasis on that. right now I'm starting to decorate the floor of the Oasis. I'm opting to use coarse dirt because it doesn't spread grass. This is just like a rough bit right here. I will detail this later on, but now is not that time. I opt to use red sand here, and that's because, as I said before, I wanted to use contrast. And I think red sand would stand out against... Well, let me rephrase this. I think water would stand out against the red sand more than it would with regular sand. And I think a couple more details that I want later on would also stand out better. So that's kind of what I went for with the red sand there. And I think it does turn out pretty well looking, you know, like looking at this from the feature, so. Yeah. Now, right now there's like a defined border between grass and sand. That will change. Yeah, that is not going to stay like that. That would look terrible. Like, that does not happen in real life. But yeah. Right now I'm just finishing putting some of the sand, and there are a couple of details in this build that I could have done, but I didn't do it. I didn't like think of them at the time. But so that's kind of like the good thing about looking back from the feature. You get see things that you could have done differently, and I will get back to that in the future at some point. I think what I'm gonna do is in a separate video, I'm gonna try and revamp the 3 builds that we've done so far, and like really get them to convey what I was going for. So yeah. Also right now I'm blurring kind of that line between grass and sand, you know, making it a little less defined and more so just blurred. I think that worked out very well. Yeah, as you can see there. And now this is when I start to do some of the detailing with the floor of the Oasis. I put in a lot of rooted dirt. I think that would, you know, fit in well, kind of like a lush area in this harsh, barren wasteland. It would make sense to have a lot of dirt, and because it's in a desert, I put some sand on the bottom. You know, makes sense. And yeah, there's the water being filled in there. As you can see, it contrasts really well with the red sand. I really like how that turned out. And as you can see here, there's like this little corner of sand in this build that's kind of just sectioned off from everything else. So, and I thought that was a little weird, so I decided to put like a rock formation there. I utilized the new tough blocks, as well as the regular stone blocks. And yeah, that's what we created there. So this rock formation consists of 3 rocks, all different heights and different sizes. So yeah. Now this build, on the sandy parts, it's a little hard to detail that. And that's because, you know, what really makes sense in a desert? There's not much, and I didn't want to go for that whole kind of cactus thing, because I just think that's so stereotypical, you know, like, you know, just having cactuses, well, cacti in a desert. You know, so I didn't want to include that in this build, and right now, I'm going for a custom tree here. I hate the way this turns out, and I'm going to change it in the future. But, yeah, custom trees are really hard, and right now I'm going for a palm tree. Yeah, it just didn't turn out that good. As you can see, it's kind of just blocky, and I tried to, like, smooth it out a little bit here, but kind of made it worse. Now the leaves came out alright, better than the actual tree itself, so that I'm happy with, but yeah, in the future I'm gonna have to just smooth that out, you know, make it look a little less, blocky, so, yeah. I opted to have 5 large leaves, and the reason I wanted this is I wanted like a bit of shading in this build, you know, kind of really create that lush kind of vibe, um, you know? You know, like that humid kind of thing, so... Sorry, I'm not very good at describing things, but yeah. Yeah, as you can see, like, those leaves created a fair bit of shading, and I say this in the outro, but the tree, although it doesn't look great, it did exactly what I needed it to do in the build, and that I'm happy for, so, yeah. Now you might notice that some of the tree kind of sticks out from the build, and I made a rule with that, and that is things can like stick out as long as they're kind of rooted in the 4 chunks, but they can't like stick out into other builds, because that would just be a mess, you know? And now is when I start adding like vegetation in the Oasis. As I said before, I'm going for like a lush kind of vibe. I also pull out a block that I have never used yet. I actually do that quite a few times in this build, but this is the first of which where that happens. And I use Azalea. Now, I've never used this before in 1.17, and I must say it looks really cool. Yeah. I also use some of that flowering Azalea. You know, just to, you know, because it is like summer, things like that can survive, so why not? Not to mention it is in a burning hot desert, so yeah, it has the heat for it to survive. But yeah. I throw in a larger bush there, you know, just to keep it consistent with the build. Here I add a rock formation in the desert. I don't know, I just put that there so it doesn't like seem so barren. You know, like I went for the same kind of thing with the dead bushes there. So yeah. And that's when I start pulling out some of the glow lichen. I used that in the previous build. And I must say it is one of my favorite blocks in 1.17 and in Minecraft. Like look at that. It just gives that kind of faint glow where it's not like too overpowering, but it does give that mystical vibe. And that's kind of something I wanted to go for here, like a whole nature and mystical kind of vibe. So yeah. Right there I was experimenting with spore blossoms. I've never used those before. Same goes for the drip leaf. So yeah, I just want to, you know, just kind of reassure myself on how they work. And I wanted to use them in this build because I think particle effects would really go well with it. But I just couldn't find a spot, so instead I changed up the rock formation that we made before. And I made it capable of holding a spore blossom, so now we have some particle effects over the Oasis, which is nice. I add some of the finishing touches of this build, and yeah, just some vegetation around the Oasis, and I put some light in the Oasis, again, kind of going for that faint kind of glow. Just puts a little more emphasis on the build, and yeah, that is the end result. Alright guys, we're back, and yeah, this is what we got. Yeah, that's really it. I think this turned out great. I really love this final result. I think it really gives that lush kind of vibe in the middle of this, you know, barren wasteland. Yeah. I think this, looking at it from afar, I think this fares pretty darn close to this. The only thing I didn't really like about this is the custom tree. I gave it an honest shot. I'm not good at it. Especially palm trees. I suck at making palm trees in Minecraft, but oh well. It did exactly what it needed to do in the build, so I'm happy for that. But yeah, once again, I think this serves pretty well against my personal favorite build here. So yeah. And let's not even mention this. Oof. Oh boy. You know what, I'm just gonna... They introduced these light blocks, why not use them? Now that's obviously a little bright, but hold on. You know, it's make it not as much of a pain to look at. These builds are experimental, by the way, so some of them might not turn out great. And that's alright. At least we have something to improve off of. And that's all you really need sometimes, so... excuse me. There we go. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It takes a lot more than that to save this build, but oh well. I mean, yeah, I mean the terraforming is good on this build at least, in my opinion at least. But yeah, still my least favorite one, even with the lights. Actually, that was completely Why did I add those? That looks really stupid. But yeah, I think this one is very nice. So, as we sit atop this rock and gaze upon the mystical particle effects, the slight glowing of the oasis, and the peace of the oasis. I said oasis twice. 3 times now. I'm going to end off this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.